Okay, hi. Before I get into all my normal bull crap, first and foremost have to say Chadwick Boseman will be dearly missed for the rest of time. I was completely shocked when I heard about him, and that shit stuck with me for a few days. So that sucks, considering there's already so much shit going on in the world, and we just keep losing the good ones, you know? Okay, but that's that. As you can tell by the title, I am going to be talking about Clueless. I just watched this for the first time in my life, and honestly, it's not what I expected and really not what I wanted. I mean, at this point in my life, I have no plans to ever watch it again. Okay, going into this, obviously, there are movies that are like classics and you hear things about them. So going into this, the things that I already knew were that Cher was like super rich and Paul Rudd was in it and Brittany Murphy, and that's it. So I had no idea what the plot was. I had no idea who like the main characters were outside of those three, obviously. But then even considering those three actors, I didn't know like what role they actually played in the plot and the movie outside of obviously Alicia Silverstone. So yeah, I just watched it for the first time and I don't love it. I don't think it like aged super well. So I probably would have liked it better had I watched it earlier in my life. Okay. It came out originally 1995. It is rated PG-13, and IMDb states that shallow, rich, and socially successful Cher is at the top of her Beverly Hills High School's pecking scale. Seeing herself as a matchmaker, Cher first coaxes two teachers into dating each other. That synopsis is honestly trash. The whole movie is just like her trying to fix other people, but then like not realizing she needs to be fixed too. So we open in her freaking mansion, which is legitimately disgusting. Nobody in the entire world needs it, especially when there's only two people living there. It's literally just her and her dad. So why are you living in a marble sculpture? And it also kind of gives me like vibes at the end of Beetlejuice, where they like turn their house into like this creepy museum type thing. That's what her house is to me. So she's in her room and she's like getting ready for her life, and the whole thing is just so 90s. I mean, I was born late 90s, so I wasn't necessarily like a 90s person, but I mean, that shit brought me back. Like it was really funny actually to see, just to see, because it's just all neon. Like everything is just like highlighter green and bright blue. And it's both of them together. Like they thought that was like really cute to match together. But surprisingly, I feel like a lot of the outfits that they wear are all the ones that are coming back right now. Like cropped shirts with like those little like lampshade skirts, or I don't have any other examples. But yeah, I definitely think that's like, that part is okay with me. But yeah, so she's getting herself ready for school and she logs onto her 25-pound computer and has a database with her picture and all the inventory of her closet so she can pick an outfit without having to try it on. And I'm like, girlfriend, that computer is so freaking old, it doesn't even have solitaire. How are you, like, turning yourself into the freaking FBI in Miss Congeniality putting on your Barbie swimsuits? That technology still does not exist. So, I mean, honestly, I feel like somebody dropped the ball on that. Or maybe it does exist and I'm just like too poor. But that actually was like a pretty good idea. And whatever. So she puts on this iconic yellow outfit that everybody knows. I've never seen the movie and I knew about this freaking outfit. And like, I don't hate it. Everybody's super into like matching sets these days. So I feel like it's still like pretty in. As if I'm the freaking fashion police. I don't know what's in. It's a cute freaking outfit. Okay, so she's driving to school. She picks up her BFF Dion, played by Stacey Dash. And my hot take for this moment is Dion should have been the main character. Cher's life is so pointless and uninteresting. Dion should have been the main character. Or maybe Stacey Dash should have played Cher. Either way. But she is driving around this brand new Jeep Wrangler and she doesn't even have a license. And I just don't, like, what are you doing? That gives me anxiety. And she's not good at it. Like, she's a terrible driver, which is like actually kind of rude because they give Dion and Cher a bad rep in driving. And it's the 90s. I wasn't really around back then, so I don't know what the whole mood was. But this shit comes off like pretty misogynistic. Sorry, not sorry. So they get to school and they find Dion's boyfriend Murray, played by Donald Faison, is how I'm telling myself it's pronounced. It's the guy from Scrubs. And he like kind of sucks. I'm like, you could do so much better. Like, he's like, he's also kind of like misogynistic. And she got annoyed with him for something. I don't remember what. But he goes, oh, is it somebody's time of the month? Excuse the hell out of you. It's freaking about to be, because blood is going to be shed if you give me that tood. I don't remember what that was about. I wrote down that she MMA'd somebody, so I think she like punched someone for being mean to her, and I'm like, girl, get it, because these boys need to be taught a freaking lesson. See, that's the thing, like, especially in school, I would write things down telling myself that I'd remember, and I never do. So, they go to school. I think this class is history. They have Mr. Hall, who's the guy from The Princess Bride, which I also have never seen, but I know that he's in it because he has that face everybody knows. He kind of looks like a turtle mixed with like a beetle. It's just very round, and all of the features, like his eyes and nose and mouth, are like distinctive, but don't also go with his like face shape. Anyway, so they're in class and Cher has to give this presentation, and it like doesn't go that well, but they also make it sound like she's actually like kind of good in school. Like when she gets her report card, she only has, I think, like 1 or 2 C's and then the rest are A's and B's. And I don't know, not everything was thought through on this one. And then world's best kept secret is Breckin Meyer is in this movie. I had no idea. And I feel cheated. But yeah, Breckin Meyer's in there. He plays Travis, the long hair stoner guy. And he jumps out the freaking window. Or tries to jump out the window in class. I don't know. But it's not like he's really gaining much from being in class anyway. Because he got the award for most tardies anyway. She gets a report card and she has a C in history. And she decides to not tell her dad because she thinks that she's going to be able to talk her way into getting better grades. And I'm like, is that a thing? Is that real? Because people will say this in real life too. Like in college, people tell me that they just email their professors asking for a higher grade and they just get it. And that blows my freaking mind because if that's the case, then what's the point of the whole grading system? I mean, maybe I'm just bitter because I didn't do that and I didn't think that I could. I don't know. I'm honestly flabbergasted. So, well, her dad's also a lawyer, and so her dad is like super proud of her. Like, oh my God, yes. Like, go talk your way out of it. You never take the first offer. And I think Paul Rudd's there already. He's her ex-stepbrother because apparently dad has been married multiple times and then got divorced. And his ex-stepson is Paul Rudd, who's in college right now. But I guess he like still wants to hang out with him and like have a relationship, which is like honestly good for you because people barely want to be parents to their own kids and this kid isn't even yours. So I'll accept it. Oh, he's Paul Rudd, who plays Josh, is also in law school. So I guess maybe that's why they want to be friends, or why like the dad wants to still have a relationship with him because he's a lawyer and Josh is trying to get into law. I don't know. That's just a fact. Oh my God, so then they're back in class and, well, so Cher was able to talk some of her teachers into giving her higher grades, but Mr. Hall's like, no, you got the grades you got, so shut up. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, because it's a grading scale for a reason. Anyway, she's pissy that she still has a C in his class and decides that she's going to try and like set him up with this other teacher. And this is the only redeemable act that she has throughout this entire movie, is she actually is successful in setting these two up. But yeah, so she tries to get him some love in his life so that he won't be as negative. And it's flawed in reasoning, it's flawed in execution. But so she decides that she's going to set these teachers up, and she writes a love letter to the lady teacher and signs it a secret admirer. And then they plant in the boy teacher's ear, like, oh, well, she said that you were cool or nice or something. And so that's how that works. Why can't I remember anything that happened in this movie? But then after that, a couple of like insignificant things happen, and Josh is like super into charity, and Cher is like, well, I donate my old clothes to Goodwill, so make me a freaking saint. And they're back in school, and they're in gym class, and I don't know what California is actually like, but the scene that they set up for this poor gym teacher is so, what's the word? Soul-sucking? Where they're playing tennis and you literally just have to walk up and hit the ball with your racket once. And Dion goes, my tennis instructor doesn't want me playing tennis with anybody else because he thinks I'll get bad habits. What the fuck? Just go up and freaking do it. And then Amber, the girl walking around with the Cindy Lou Who hair with a freaking hanger, says that because I think she got a nose job just like 87% of the rest of the school. Just in the background, you see everybody has bandages on their nose because every girl's getting a nose job. Says that her surgeon doesn't want balls flying at her face. And I'm like, girlfriend, you are setting yourself up for a diss on that one. And Dion serves it up. But then Ty shows up, played by Brittany Murphy, and she's just a sweet little peanut, and she is too innocent. And I mean, not like innocent in the conventional sense, I guess, because like she's not legally innocent, but she's very like trusting and nice, I guess. And so Cher basically decides that Ty is going to be like her community service project to prove to Josh, I guess, that she's giving. So she decides to like take Ty under her wing. And I'm like, hey, you're trying to be nice, which is great. Because obviously starting at a new school is difficult, and she's probably like stressed or nervous or a mixture of 10 other emotions. But where she goes wrong is she tries to like change everything about her. And I'm like, sure, try to like, I mean, if she wants to get some new clothes, then go ahead, but don't like force her. Whatever. So then they become best friends, and they decide that for Ty to increase her social standing as fast as possible, that she should start dating like a hot guy. And she's super interested in Travis, the skateboarding stoner. But then Cher's like, no, he's a weirdo, stay away. And I'm like, obviously we all know that it's flawed, but like, just let the girl do what she wants. If she wants to go do some hippity dippity with this guy, maybe smoke some weed, then just let her. And then if that doesn't work out, then it doesn't freaking work out. But why are you purposely trying to like set her up with this guy who like is just because he's rich? So anyway, her decision is that Ty should date Elton. And like, from the rolling of the credits, you can tell that Elton is interested in Cher. It's so obvious. They're in the middle of class and he's like hugging her from behind because she got a C. Like, oh my god, so proud of you. Come on, are you joking? And he like only wants to hang out when she's there, and they all end up going to like this house party. And Ty and Elton dance for like 5 seconds, but then it's gonna get worse. But yeah, so then after Ty gets this little transformation, they decide to like do a photo shoot and take all these pictures of her like with flowers, and Elton walks by and is like, oh wow, like could I get a copy of that? And I'm like, that's like kind of weird. Regardless, like even if you are trying to hook up with somebody, it's weird. It's weird. But I mean, I guess maybe because it's the 90s, they don't have social media, they have to like do what they want. And it was like a whole thing to decorate the inside of your locker, which is where he ends up putting it. He ends up putting the picture inside of his locker. But like, just have a picture of a random girl that like he really doesn't even talk to. Like they're not even friends at this point. But he's like, hey, give me that picture you took of her so I can tape it up and stare at her every single day. And Cher's like, oh my god, he likes you. But then so after that, they find out that, so there's this house party, and from the beginning, they're like, no thanks. But they find out Elton's going to be there, and they're like, okay, well, this is actually like the perfect opportunity to make Elton and Ty fall in love with each other. So they end up going to this party. Things start off bad because Travis accidentally spills a beverage on Cher's satin shoes. First of all, what kind of house party did you think this was? That you wore shoes that could not get ruined? You never wear good shoes to a house party, to a bar. Some restaurants, you really should wear some trash shoes. Like, that's on you. That is, you only have yourself to blame for that one. But then she gets super pissy at Travis, like, oh my god, I'm so glad that I didn't make Ty fall in love with you. So, like, Cher and Ty go out and are dancing with each other, and she's trying to, like, make out and look over and like her. And he's, like, looking over and he's giving them eyes. And then Ty accidentally gets hit in the head with a shoe. So then he like coaxes her back to life with a rag and a couple of ice cubes, and she's in love and ready to get married already. But then, so they're getting ready to leave, and Cher's trying to force Elton to take Ty home. And Elton's like, no, I'll take Cher home. And she's like, no, take Ty home. And he's like, no, I'm taking Cher home. And I'm like, girlfriend, why are you acting so blind to the fact that he is interested in you. So Cher ends up going home with Elton. Not really. She ends up in his car driving home. He tries to pull a fast one, and she's like, no thanks, actually, at all. I'm not interested. But then he gets super pissy about it, and I'm like, dude, pull your nuts back up and get on with your life. Like, the audacity of some white men is just chill-inducing. Like, he throws a freaking tantrum because she doesn't want to make out with him. Like, that's not how you act as a person in society. You can't do that. So he starts freaking out and makes her get out of the car. I'm like, dude, maybe this is why she doesn't like you. It's like 2 a.m., pitch black outside in the middle of nowhere. They are at least like an hour away from her house. And he just makes her get out of the car, and then he drives off. I'm like, this is why you're going to die alone. So she's very upset. She's in a parking lot alone. And she pulls out her phone to try and call somebody to pick her up. And then this guy shows up and freaking mugs her at gunpoint. I'm like, dude. So many plot points. Like, there's so much happening. So then that happens. Everything gets stolen. And she's freaking out. So then she calls Paul Rudd and says, hey, can you come pick me up? So then he does. But he's also spending time with a lady. Is he at that point? But yes, after conferring with my notes, he is spending time with a lady friend. And he still gets up and he goes to get her because he knows that she's in trouble. And that's the kind of positivity we need in our life. So he goes to pick her up, and then they go to drop his girlfriend off, and Cher's very obviously jealous, but she refuses to admit it for another 30 minutes of this movie. So then they end up going home because he's staying in their house because he hates his mom, and that's that. So then obviously word gets around that Elton doesn't like Ty, and she is devastated to an alarming extent. I have seen more substantial relationships end with less tears. They didn't have a relationship. They danced for 5 seconds during a song after she got knocked out with a shoe. And she has a box, like an Elton box, like how people will have a box of their ex's stuff. I'm like, girlfriend, he was never a current. He can't be your ex. But in the box, it's the tail that he put the ice in to put on her head to wake her back up from her coma at this party. And so they just throw it in the fire in, Cher's fake fireplace, obviously. Okay, so back at school, we have not necessarily a new student, because in the beginning of the movie, when they're calling attendance, Cher says that there's a thing with his parents that they're divorced, so he's spending half the year with them and the other half, half the year with mom and the other half with dad. So I don't know. He shows up. I guess it's somebody's turn to watch him. And he strolls in looking like a cartoon detective. No, oh my god, okay. He looks like a film noir parody. Those, I don't know if anybody still watches Whose Line Is It Anyway as much as I do. Because, fun fact, they play reruns of the original series and the rebooted series after 11 p.m. You're welcome. But when Ryan and Colin would do the fake film noir setups, that's him. And obviously Cher's obsessed because she went on this whole rant about how all the guys in her area, or like her age group, I guess, because she hates high school kids. She thinks that she's better than them, and she refuses to give high school guys the time of day. And she's complaining about how they all dress ridiculously, and they like pan over this group of guys walking around with sagging jeans, and I'm like, sorry, it doesn't get much better. And then Christian walks in with his pleated pants and his hand-me-down penny loafers. So she like stops breathing for a second and immediately falls in love. So to get his attention, which like she already has his attention from the second he walked into class. And that's also another thing, like they acted like they had never met before, but she's not a freshman and she knew about his personal life, so why are they acting like they don't know each other at all? Anyway, from the second he walks into the class, they have uninterrupted eye contact, so I'm like, you have his attention. Then she decides to try to make him jealous and sends herself flowers and chocolate in her class so that he can see how desired she is by other people. And I'm like, wow, that's actually really convenient that the second he shows up in class, you start getting presents from all these other people. And also, who does that? Even if you had all these admirers, who was sending you flowers and chocolates 4 days a week in freaking second period of Mr. Hall's history class? But I digress. So, shockingly enough, she gets his attention and they like decide to be a thing. So then they find out that there's a party, and if I remember correctly, the party is supposedly being hosted by Josh's friends in school, like his law school friends or like college, whatever. Oh my god, actually, ew. Okay, I did not think about this at all until just now, but she doesn't necessarily have to be a sophomore because you can get your license whenever you want. She has a permit, she doesn't have a license. She's still in high school. I don't know what grade. Hold on. Oh my god, what? Shut up. Okay, this movie is an abomination. IMDb says she is 15 years old. And I know from my family that law school is graduate level. So you do not go into law school straight out of high school. So that means that Josh would have had to finish a bachelor's degree before he went to law school, which would make him at least 22 years old. And you know what? Let's pretend that he fast-tracked, or maybe it was different in the 90s. Pretend that he's in just regular college. He's interested in a 15-year-old girl? No, okay, I have so many more issues than I ever thought possible. Okay, so Josh and his pedophile friends are throwing this party. They're not pedophiles. I am shook to my core at this revelation. They're throwing this party, and Christian decides that that's going to be their first date, so he picks her up at her house, and Josh is helping her dad with law stuff, and then I guess he gets, like, jealous, because he's starting to not hate her anymore, and the dad's like, you can go, like, to the party if you want, it's not that big of a deal, and he's like, oh no, man, like, I'll just go to keep an eye on her, like, I'll watch out for her. And dad's like, yeah, okay, buddy. So Josh ends up going to the party. She is trying to have fun with Christian. She's like dancing all up on him, and his eyes are immediately stolen by every male in this establishment. He like surrounds their group of people by just men, and he's dancing with them, and Cher is completely oblivious to the world around her. And then he says he's gonna go get drinks, and they show him in the background like flirting with the bartender, who's a boy. And so I'm like, girl, how dense in your skull can you possibly be? Anyway, nothing happens, say, like, and he wants to go to, like, the after party, and she's like, I'm actually ready to go. So he hangs out with all of his new guy friends, and she goes home with Josh. Ty's also there because, honestly, who knows? Elton's there with his new girlfriend, so Ty almost has a breakdown, and she's, like, literally standing off to the side by herself. But then when Josh gets there, he starts dancing with her to make her not feel lonely. So the three of them leave, and things didn't go well. Okay, and so she's already had a conversation with Dion and Ty that she admits she's never had sex before. And I think Dion is like kind of on the same page-ish. I think Cher is more so the kind of person that's like, no, I'm not going to. And Dion's just kind of like, if it happens, it happens. And she has this conversation with somebody, I don't remember who, saying that she is like so ready to have sex with Christian, and they've only been on one date. Like, she sets up this second date for them to sit there and watch movies together with the full intentions of having sex with him because she thinks that he's the one. I don't know. But he's not interested at all. And she tries and tries. And she's like touching his part, not those parts. She's like rubbing up on his legs and accidentally knocks herself off the bed looking like a freaking fool because she's trying to have sex with this guy who is not interested at all. So then she's like depressed because he didn't want to. And then she's like, oh, well, I guess he's not the one. I guess maybe I shouldn't have tried to have sex with him on our second date when we literally haven't even kissed yet, I don't think. I don't think we saw them kiss ever. So that's that. And then they show Dion trying to learn how to drive. And Murray's in the passenger seat trying to teach her. And they really throw on some stereotypes about women not knowing how to drive. But I digress. They all almost get killed on the freeway by accident. And she's talking about how she's upset that she like didn't get to hook up with Christian, and Murray's like, are you joking? Because he's like 100% gay. And she's like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I don't know how you didn't pick up on it because every single audience member did immediately. So they still end up being like really good friends, which is sweet. So apparently Christian is like super into shopping. So Christian, Cher, and Ty all go to the mall and they're hanging out. Ty's like talking to these guys. Like, this makeover did not do a lot of great things for her socially. But then she's, okay, first mistake, she's sitting on the bar. They're on the second level and she's like sitting on the bar of like the wall where you like, where there's the hole and you peek over and you see down onto the first floor. She's like sitting on the partition. And why are you being that? That's just reckless. Like, that's stupid. Even if you're with your BFFs and they're holding you down, don't do it. Just don't. But she's with, like, these two randoms that she met at, like, the food court. And they, like, pretend to try to drop her off the, like, over the rail. And she starts freaking out, obviously, because she thought she was gonna die. But then Christian, like, now that we're friends with him and we know that, like, romantically nothing's gonna happen, he's, like, super cool. And I give him a 10 out of 10. But Christian runs over and tries to save her life, and he brings her back. And then the next day at school, everybody is blowing this crap out of proportion and talking, like, they think that she almost got shot. People were saying that there's weapons involved, saying that she was, like, attacked by a crew of guys. Like, no, there were two, and honestly, 20% was her fault, because why did you put yourself on that rail to begin with? And so Cher's like, no, that's all fake. But then Ty's sitting down at the lunch table surrounded by herds of people trying to hear her freaking I Survived episode. And Cher's like, well, I got mugged at gunpoint, like with the gun up to my head. And people are like, oh yeah, okay. Like, nobody gives a shit, but whatever. And then while they're sitting there, Travis, her initial love interest, tries to, like, go up and hang out with them to, like, talk about, you know, this whole thing that's taking the school by storm. And Ty tells him to go sit over on the grass with all the other stoners. And I'm like, girl, listen, I was okay with you up until this point. You cannot change yourself to that extent. What part of this do you think Travis deserves? Because from day one, all he's tried to do is be nice to you. He smokes weed every freaking day, which means he is chill as hell. Why are you throwing so much toot in his direction when he's also just trying to talk to you about this thing that you're milking like a freaking cow? Anyway, oh my god, and now she's hanging out with Amber, Cindy freaking Lou Who. And Amber and Cher are the complete opposite of friends. They hate each other. They always end up doing debates in Mr. Hall's class. They're not cool whatsoever. And now Ty is hanging out with Amber. And I'm like, girl, you are showing your colors. And they are ugly. Oh, this is when Ty has her Elton box that she's ceremoniously sacrificing to the freaking gods because she's over him. And it's so dramatic. But then she tells Cher that she's interested in somebody else. So, like, she's totally cool with getting rid of Elton because she's moving on. And Cher's like, oh, cool. Like, can it be Travis? Because you wanted him in the beginning. And she goes, no, Josh. Like, I want to date Josh. I love Josh. And Cher is floored at this news because she hasn't admitted it yet, but Cher wants Josh. And I believe, I'm going to go see what this is. Okay. In the beginning, I got kind of confused because they kept calling him, like, the ex-stepson. And I thought for a hot second that he was, like, Cher's ex. So I was like, is that girl code? Because did they used to date? Or is she just denying her feelings for him right now? So then Cher's like, oh no, like, you actually shouldn't date him. And then Ty gets offended, which, like, she has every right to be because she doesn't know because Cher's lying. So then Ty tells Cher that she's a virgin who can't drive. And she's not wrong, you know? I mean, it's a shitty thing to say because Ty has become a shitty person. And, like, you shouldn't throw those things as a dig. It's just fucked up. Because, you know, failing her driver's test is something that she's upset about. And she just wants to be able to get her license. And if she decides to be a virgin, then just let her. it's really not that deep, and you don't have to throw it as if you're, like, insulting her worth as a person. Anyway, Cher decides to go on a therapeutic shopping spree when she has, like, this whole inner monologue about her feelings and decides that she is in love with Josh, which is quite dramatic. She says she's in love with him, and I'm like, you're allowed to just say you have a crush. Anyway, Josh has always been, like, super into helping other people because he's a stand-up guy. So to get his attention, Cher decides to help out with, there was a Pismo Beach disaster. I don't know what the disaster was, but it happened on Pismo Beach. So she decides to help out with the relief efforts of, like, collecting supplies and volunteering and such. Oh, but then, like, throughout this whole thing, she's basically saying, like, she thinks that Josh likes Ty, but then Josh might like her, and she feels bad that she's, like, ruining Ty's chances with him because they could be together. And I'm like, nobody even knows what Josh is saying about the whole freaking thing. Like, everybody's just putting words in his mouth because, first of all, they're all children, so it's not like they're gonna have actual conversations about their feelings or lack thereof. So Josh is, like, super impressed that she is collecting canned goods and also decides that he's, like, in love with her too. But while she's volunteering, our BFF Travis shows up to donate his supplies, and he may have been a little bit misled because he decided to bring one of his old bongs, but you know what? Somebody probably lost one in whatever this disaster was, you know? So there's a place for everything. And she's like, oh my God, that's so nice of you. And I'm like, yeah, I could have told you that from the beginning because he's a good person and you should have let him date Ty to begin with. But I digress. So after that, she goes back to their house where Josh is still living, and he has already acknowledged that he likes her. She acknowledges she likes him. So now neither of them know how to talk to each other. And the whole encounter is so seriously uncomfortable. It starts off, so when she gets back to the house, no, they're already at the house. They're helping out with, like, her dad's lawsuit stuff. And there was, like, a file of papers that she did the wrong thing with, and then her dad's coworker, like, reams her a new asshole for being an idiot and says that she's stupid and sucks really bad. And then Josh yells at him and defends her. So he's like, dude, she's a kid. She has no idea. I'm like, she is a kid. Funny. So after that, she already, like, storms off because she's so sad. And then he goes to find her and they start talking. And this is the uncomfy part because, like, they both know that they like each other, but they don't know that the other one likes them too. So, like, how do they go about that? And it sucks to watch, but then they, like, finally start kissing. And then in the finale, the two teachers that she set up together, Mr. Hall and Miss Something, are now getting married. And Cher, Dion, and Ty are this teacher's bridesmaids. I'm sorry. What are you telling me? That in what world? Show me any freaking teacher in the history of the universe that invited their entire class period to their wedding, let alone has them in the party. Like, does she not have family? She doesn't have any sisters. She doesn't have any actual friends. And do they know that she set them up? Because that was never addressed. So this part really kind of just got away from me. I can't. So they're at this wedding, they're sitting down for the reception, and we find out that the guys, Josh, Marie, and Travis, have a bet on which of their girlfriends will catch the bouquet. And so then they go over to the ceremonial tossing of the bouquet. And let me tell you, I have been to a number of weddings. And that number specifically is like 3. 3 weddings. And I can tell you, I've never seen anyone in real life fight to catch the bouquet. That's fake. That is fake. That does not happen in real life. Because half the girls who go out there don't even want to be out there because they feel awkward and it's weird. So any single person in Hollywood, take this note. It's fake. But it's like freaking cage match, WWE, when this teacher tosses the bouquet and everyone's like punching each other in the face for it, and then Cher obviously succeeds. And I'm like, girlfriend hasn't even turned 16 yet. And she's already like selling herself off to get married to Josh, who may or may not be a pedophile at this point. Because I don't know how old he actually is. And then that's it. That's the end of it. And to say that I was done at that point is a gross understatement. I mean, it's definitely something that if you're going to invest your time into watching, you will probably enjoy it more if you're under some type of influence of a legal substance. Because obviously, I would never suggest using illegal substances. I don't know what kind of person you think I am. But if you're of age, maybe a couple glasses of wine. If you have a medical card, go smoke it up a little bit. If you can dull your senses in any kind of way that your mind isn't picking it apart in such detail, then like you'll be fine. But it is what it is. So that's all I have to say on the matter. I said this in the beginning, but I have no plans on watching it again anytime soon. It's just not significant enough for me at this point. There are so many better options. I mean, thanks, but no thanks. It was good enough, like, to get that kind of feel of nostalgia of the, like, terrible outfits people pick out and all of the bright colors and the lack of technology. But that's the extent of what I consider acceptable in this movie. So, I don't really have much else to say. I am kind of like going back and forth, like, not necessarily back and forth. I have like a lot of shit going on, I guess. Not bad, but just like I'm busy, I guess. Which is shocking because I don't have a job. But I have a trip coming up. And before anybody comes at me, it is a business trip. I'm not going on vacation. It is not for fun. It was supposed to be back in June, but for obvious reasons, it got pushed back to September. But so I've been spending a lot of time getting everything that like I need personally for the trip, like packing, clothes, whatever. But then I also have like all my work stuff, which is funny because I just said that I don't have a job, which is technically true. It's just hard to explain. But it is for business. So I have to get like all my work stuff together. And that's super stressful. So I will still be away in a couple of weeks on Monday. In a perfect world, I will have completed and scheduled an episode to automatically upload on that day. But considering I'm far from perfect, and I'm literally doing this 6 hours ago, we'll see how that's going to go. Considering I still haven't even done any packing or preparation. So, yeah, that's it. I'm going to head out for now. I am on social media. If you care, I don't really use it. I got a new phone and I haven't even logged into the Twitter page on my new phone yet. So, I mean, you don't have to like rush over, but I usually post at least on Instagram, like when there's new episodes and stuff. So if you're interested, go ahead. If you think anybody else might be interested, then tell them too. I've said it before, if I could get like more people to listen to this, I wouldn't be mad, but I don't want to sit here and sound self-centered. So do with this podcast what you will. I'm leaving because I still have to edit this before I schedule it to upload this morning. Okay, so that's it for me for this week. I will see you next time, probably. Bye!